We are following several national midterms this year with big impacts on the mountains.
And one of them is the mayoral race in Asheville.
News 13's Hannah Mackenzie spoke with Mayor Esther Manheimer today and the other candidates hoping to take over that position.
The race for Asheville City Mayor heating up. 3 candidates now taking on incumbent Esther Manheimer, who's held the role since 2013. Filing closes Friday. Right now, 4 candidates vying for the mayoral bid. Incumbent Esther Manheimer speaking with us about one of the city's top issues. There has been a lot of community backlash in the way that the city and you especially have handled homeless issues. What's your response?
You know, we've seen homelessness escalate as a crisis in this city and cities across the nation during COVID, and every city's got to figure out how to address it as best they can. I think we've tried to pivot and figure that out, working with the police department, trying to enforce the camping ban while providing shelter space to those that we can.
So with the back and forth with the Ramada situation, the clearing of the homeless camps, and then, the complaints about litter downtown, many are saying this is just not happening fast enough. What is a remedy?
I share their frustration. I don't think it's happening fast enough. The city, like every other employer, is short-staffed.
Dr. Cliff Feingold running to bring a conservative voice to the front lines.
With a liberal mindset on the council now, and everybody voting for liberal agenda items, and nobody even thinking about voting for conservative items.
With his self-confessed diversity of opinion, Feingold aiming to restore Asheville's reputation.
And I've seen Asheville go through all sorts of changes. Right now the change is not good. Downtown is a place where tourists don't want to go anymore. Tourists who do come here are dissatisfied. We need to fix the police department. They're down 42% of the officers.
What is it that you hope to bring to the role if you are elected?
Transparency, accountability for a resilient community. That's it.
And Michael Hayes looking to use personal experience to bring about change.
I've been in recovery. I've been homeless. I've been incarcerated. I've been all those things that can hold people back from getting affordable housing or just from getting in a place to live.
Hayes hoping his story can help others from slipping into the same cycle.
I have a son that is incarcerated right now doing 15 years. I have a son that's going to be in and out of court. Yes, those are my children. I'm going to tell you what happened. Because I went through the trauma that I went through, then they had to live the generational trauma out that I put on them.
Then Thursday afternoon, Kim Roney tweeting this photo announcing her candidacy. We reached out to the Asheville City Councilwoman for comment. She told me she'll release a statement Friday after filing closes.
A Hope Day Center continues to be a problem for some business owners and residents who live nearby.
Tonight, a pastor is thinking about closing the doors to his church in that part of Asheville.
News 13's Samir Nefsi joins us live in studio with why one pastor is fed up. Samir?
Yeah, Sycamore Temple Church of God in Christ Pastor Samuel Payne says things have gotten so bad in the area, he hopes to move his church from people breaking into the building, defecating on the property, and even drug use. While homeowner Terry Simmons says he's experienced the same ongoing issues, the common denominator between the two, A Hope Day Center.
It's a good location.
Since 1972, the Sycamore Temple Church of God in Christ has called 11 North Ann Street home.
Past couple of years, we've had a lot of trouble with the homeless situation. This has gotten worse.
Those issues include everything from syringe litter, vandalism, and even people defecating on the property.
Some of the members are afraid to come over here.
And after 50 years at the location, the church and its congregation might be throwing the towel in on that location.
We're currently thinking about leaving this location because of the action and all the drama that surrounds here, and I don't think the church need to have to put up that kind of behavior.
The church stands about 300 feet away from the A Hope Day Center.
It wasn't like this when A Hope first moved here, but I don't know whether it's the management or what, but it's getting unbearable.
The pastor believes issues stemming from the center are going unnoticed by majority of the city council, Asheville mayor, and city manager, but Councilwoman Annette Mosley says she's ready to take action, explaining she's noticed firsthand some of the issues with A Hope.
What I would like to happen would be a realization on their part that things aren't working. You know, there are avenues available to the city that I would hope we wouldn't have to utilize early. They have instituted a security plan.
Since February 21st, the center hired an overnight security guard with a price tag of $11,000 per month. But it's done little to stop the vandalism pictured here.
Something has got to happen. I appreciate A-Hope's effort in security, but some of the things that I've seen have happened during the day.
Meanwhile, Terry Simmons shot this video on Monday.
I filmed a guy just sitting in my driveway shooting up. And when he was done, he threw the needle onto my property.
It's been an ongoing issue since he purchased the property behind A-Hope.
We've got a nuisance neighbor in A-Hope, a nuisance neighbor. I want to see him gone.
Councilwoman Mosley says she plans to review data to decide if A-Hope's security guard helps to decrease the ongoing issues impacting those around the center.
I believe there is a way that we can take care of the neediest in our community and also protect everyone else.
A-Hope has released a statement to News 13, which reads in part, quote, "We recognize that the negative impacts felt by our community and neighbors will not be transformed overnight and that we have ongoing and significant work to do, but in order to be the neighbors that we want to be. But we have seen improvements since investing in on-site and off-hour security." As for the church, Pastor Payne says nothing has been finalized as to if the church will close their current location. But if they do, he hopes to be out by the middle of the year.
Tonight we are learning more about a statewide study on how the pandemic impacted students in North Carolina schools.
The data released this week shows the amount of learning that was lost because of remote learning and other school disruptions. News 13's Andrew James has a closer look at those results.
This study looked at the difference in how students were expected to perform and how they actually performed. And while there are national studies about learning loss during the pandemic, this is the first of its kind to look specifically at North Carolina students. Students and parents felt the impacts of COVID-19 on schools in real time, but now state leaders are doing a deeper dive into measuring that impact so that learning loss can be addressed in North Carolina schools.
We use side-by-side bar charts for 2018 and 2021 to show the difference between business as usual and the impact of the pandemic.
Dr. Michael Marr with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction presented the new study to the State Board of Education this week, showing the widespread impacts of COVID-19 on all students.
There was a negative impact for all students, for all grades, for almost every subject with the exception of English 2.
Dr. Marr telling board members the negative impacts are especially true for math in grades 5 through 9 and in 8th grade science. While students continue to progress during the pandemic, he says it was at a slower pace than expected.
This is not on the backs of teachers, principals, superintendents. There is nothing any of them could have done in the height of this pandemic to change these results.
The study also looked at learning loss impacts on different subgroups of the student population.
Despite those early predictions that male students were more negatively impacted because having to be self-directed in their learning, our statewide data did not support that.
According to Dr. Jenny Korn, students of all races were negatively impacted by the pandemic, but pre-existing disparities also increased. And the study looked at other factors as well, like access to broadband internet at home during the pandemic. And we'll have this full study posted in this story at WLOS.com.